Okay, so where did you want to start on the reviewing this?
I think first we wanted to look at the FIFO pricing solution and being able to export material transfers from SIS.
Okay. The screen sharing going here. Okay, so what information are you looking to export in the material transfers? Is that are you considering that to be a stock transfer within the system, a move stock operation, for example?
That would be an issuing.
Okay, so it's the issuing. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, my apologies. Every client has different terminology, so.
Yeah, no worries.
So that would essentially be something like this, these negative adjustment reports. But I guess the main concern is just going to be the formatting. So you guys can import that data back into your Spectrum system.
Yeah, I can get you a list of kind of what we're looking for in terms of both the columns we need and in terms of if they need to be formatted in any particular way. But the one thing that we need included on this is that FIFO cost per unit.
Okay.
Yeah, for primarily for inventory valuation. So being able to determine what we have, as a dollar value in our inventory based on that FIFO pricing. That report, as you guys mentioned last time, is another primary deliverable for us.
Okay, so we're going to have another view on the negative adjustment history in to be determined format. And that'll include that FIFO cost per unit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure I take these notes down here. I should probably actually turn on.
Now I did recording it.
Oh, cool. I was just thinking that, yeah. Okay. So is that on top of, or is that alongside of the other two reports we had mentioned, which is the FIFO evaluation report, and then the FIFO transactions report, or is the FIFO transactions report just the same as this?
That would be the FIFO transactions report.
Okay.
So when material is issued, we need to include, some of the information so we can then format it and send it to our financial system. And that includes then that FIFO price.
Yeah, if you could just get us a Excel template with essentially just the columns along the top and then just a sample couple rows of data, we can easily replicate that. So
fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we got the go-ahead to move forward with the FIFO transactions report and the FIFO calculations that's going to be needed to do that all in the background. However, one of the concerns that we had was in terms of data integrity. We wanted to make sure, so currently our, you have it pulled up right now, but I don't see any. We had a column and there was a different report. We used was it reference or reason for work order?
We used the
remarks
column.
We use the remarks column when issuing out material to refer back to which work order we are using.
okay.
Now, in the future, we would like to have a table or some sort of list that can be selected when issuing out inventory that we would be providing you with the list of work orders that are valid and then when we issue material out, there would be a separate column that would be using that list of work orders to select from, and then that would, in addition, be on the report for the FIFO transactions as well.
Okay, so we jump over to the issue screen. So essentially, you're looking for a mark to be a selectable field instead of a free-form typing in field. Okay. We do actually have, it's not actually on these views, but we do actually have a work order system built in. So, you know, we could probably just use this, you know, or maybe another user manageable list. I'm not sure how you guys would like to do that, but, you know, there's a few different ways that we could facilitate that in the system, then add a drop-down box over there.
So the other half of the data integrity question, if we can use the built-in work order functionality for work orders, was for purchase orders. In the conversation we had, we learned some more about our financial system in terms of how purchase orders operate, and workflow-wise, we think it might be easier to have the purchase orders initially built in SYS and then exported to our financial system rather than the other way around.
Okay.
And coming back to data integrity, one of the questions with that was ensuring that our vendors are selected the same.
And that's something I noticed when we looked at that initial kind of Spectrum export is some of the part numbers look a little different, and some of the vendor names and stuff look a little different. So we do have on the wrong list here. We do have the suppliers and vendor lists in here already. We can normalize this information. So, for example, if you can get us a full export of like the vendor ID numbers or anything like that out of the Spectrum system, we can update CISS you know, in our inventory program to utilize those values instead. And that's part of why we put that data normalization part into the quote, because you know, as soon as I looked at that, I saw the formats look different and these don't look the same. So we expected to have to do some of that in order to make the two systems look at the data in the same way.
Okay. I don't think we need to do too much of the parts formatting because we don't have a parts table built into Spectrum. It'll accept, I mean, we have a convention that people typically use, but it's not like a drop-down field that has to be selected from a list.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit easier on that end. And then again, we're looking to now export the material from SYS, export the purchase orders from SYS into Spectrum.
Okay, we'll probably have to again, you know, figure out a format and design some sort of method to send that out. Yeah, pretty much we'll just have to make the custom reports to show that information. And we'll also have to make some determinations as to what stage you want the, you know, orders to be available at. So, for example, you know, there's a few different statuses here you can see. You know, so I don't know when you'd want it to move over to Spectrum, when you'd want it to be available on the reports, and that's something that'll have to be determined. Do you want it to only move over once it's complete, move over as soon as it's created, you know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we've talked about internally, but haven't made a complete decision yet.
Mm-hmm. And then the other question would be, how do we want this interface to work? Are we going to try to automate this, or is this going to be like a manual process? That is one concern we have, because it depends on how Spectrum works. We don't really know much about it on our end here. So
I know we have the capability to have information automatically pulled from Spectrum. Do we have the capability to automatically push information into Spectrum as well, or at least drop a file and have it automatically be read?
Yeah, so we have the ability to import a file, pretty much the same, like just as easily as what you just said, but I'm not sure if the full capabilities. You might have to talk to Tom.
Okay. That would be a Tom question.
About what exactly Spectrum can handle that when it comes to that.
Okay, well, we've done a few different things in that respect. Sometimes we'll talk directly to the other system. Sometimes we'll just upload a flat file to like an FTP site or something, and we'll do that nightly, and it'll just process.
We do that for payroll. We have a file exported to an FTP site, and then I can import it to the financial system.
Okay.
So in regards to that, one of the questions were asked that I didn't particularly know the answer for was just security standpoint. What types of procedures we need to follow to ensure security with whether we go down the FTP route or whether it's a direct.
In terms of security, if we set up an FTP link, we'll probably do it over secure FTP. We'll just upload the documents nightly generally. Yeah, it just depends on your network and system. We'll punch a hole in the firewall to your specific IP address and send the files across. If it's a manual process, the security really falls on the user who's doing it to follow security practices in that sense. Our system generally lets you export the data. As soon as you download that file, it's your responsibility what you do with it. As far as security to the website, we do run everything over HTTPS, and there is an advanced permission system built into Inventory Pro. So if you want to lock down who can access this information, you can determine what reports each individual group and user can see, and additionally you can lock down different groups from being able to access different types of information.
So speaking of permissions, we are trying to expand the number of users. So previously we had just pretty much admin users who can read and edit everything, and then admin users who are read-only. Now, as we try to expand the number of users actually using the system in terms of data input, we're going to have to be working with this permission screen. One of the options when I saw when playing around with it was, I think it was like in admin options, where issuing items can require approval. And that was something that came up in some of our discussions. Can you explain a little bit how the approval process works?
I think off the top of my head here. So the approval process is essentially just I don't know if I can enable it on the fly here, but essentially the approval process is just when the order is created, it puts it into a pending state. So it essentially can't be completed until someone who's marked as an administrator, and I think that's done on the employee screen. The field might be there in the default. Okay, so this person's marked as a salesperson, yeah. So this person would be able to approve a shipping order out of the system. Now that said, I don't know how it ties into default issuing. I don't think you guys use the system to its full capacity there. I think you guys just use the issue grid directly. So I'm not sure how that would function, because normally it runs through the orders, either the purchasing or the shipping system with those approvals. Yeah, I don't really think we do much in terms of approvals when you're just using the direct issue grid to move stuff through the system.
So the approval process is for shipping orders, not for issuing.
It's for the issuing process of the shipping orders. It's probably labeled wrong because the system is about 20 years old. The terminology has changed over the years, but yeah. Yeah, so for example, the start issue control, that's what this controls. That's what that particular functionality controls, is as far as, whether I can actually process this order or not, whether it's been approved to be shipped and things like that. And I think that's require approval to issue. Yeah, so that's what that ties into. It is labeled incorrectly there. It should be issue orders.
So is it possible to, how difficult would it be to have a very similar approval process for the issuing in terms of the issue stock screen rather than the shipping screen?
That would be a major change.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would,
Change our process.
That would be a messy one.
Okay.
Okay.
The easier route would be to try to implement the shipping order process. You know, possibly just change the terminology a bit. Trying to do it directly on the issue screen would be very, very difficult. We'd have to do a lot of changes in how that screen works. Because currently only the currently active user can actually see what you're looking at on the screen. We'd have to make it so administrators can come in and look at a queue and approve the queue and things like that.
Okay. Could you walk through what you know, if we decided to implement shipping orders rather than using the issue screen for working on sending these parts to work orders, can you just show us really quick what that might look like?
Sure. Let me jump off your live site just so we don't mess up any of the data here. Okay, and we're over on the testing system now. And so essentially, with the shipping order process, again, it's not a quick thing to activate there. I have to toggle some things in the background. But essentially, what you would do is you would create a shipping order here, and it looks like you do have a couple in the system here for shipping orders. So the shipping order process, it's pretty straightforward. You just click Add New. You put in the type of order if you'd like to. You can leave it default as well. You select the warehouse, and you select where it's being shipped to. So again, we can simplify this if need be if you're not using all these fields. And then at this point, you can click Save, and it puts the order into the system. At this point, if the approval process is turned on, you can't use the Issue button yet, basically. It just doesn't allow you to come over here on the line items page and click the Issue button. It requires an administrator to come over to this particular page, and there's 2 additional buttons that pop up for them, which is approve or disapprove, basically, so they can toggle it on or off from whether you're allowed to process this order. So an administrator would see an additional button or 2 here in regards to approval. Otherwise, the screen looks exactly the same. And then it works similarly to the issue grid. You just fill the screen with whatever stock you're using. And there's no stock in this warehouse, unfortunately, really. But you just fill out the screen with what you'd like to consume, the amounts you'd like to send out. And then, it can be approved or disapproved. And once it's approved, you're not allowed to edit it. So once it's got the approval flag, you're not allowed to make any changes here to any of the values. And then these values are copied directly over to the issue. So if I click Start Issue, once it's been approved, you'll be able to click that, and it'll just take you over the same issue screen. And from here, you can then consume it, and it posts back against that order number with relevant information. So it would be a similar process. It would just have a couple additional steps in there. But that would probably be the best way to implement this to avoid having to, rebuild this particular screen. And again, we can change the terminology. So if you'd like a different label for shipping orders or something, or if you'd like a different, numbering system or anything like that, the system allows for some tweaks in that department.
Instead of SO.
Yeah.
Now, could we have for the numbering systems? Because don't we currently use shipping orders for when we do ship out for jobs? But we would be looking to expand this to have users use it for material transfers to work orders now, in addition to the jobs that they're currently being used for. Would we be able to have different naming conventions for either different users or for different types of orders?
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could do that for different order types. Have 2 different screen sets, basically. One for the standard order type, one for the work order fulfillment type. I mean, additionally, we could also just put you guys directly into the work order system as well. And then again, here we have a similar controls as far as, who's requested, who's assigned. I don't know if there's approval tied into work orders, though, so that might be an issue. But it is possible to do this in a few different ways.
Does the work order system have a similar approval process?
I don't know, actually. It might not. There's a lot of functionality that's not displayed by default with the work orders. Benson, do you have any idea if we have approvals on the work order side?
I don't think we do.
Yeah, I think it's just the requested and the assignment. It wouldn't be too difficult to copy the functionality over from the orders from the standard shipping order section, though. I don't think. And then we could
so that way we would be able to already have the work orders brought over. They'd be able to select the name of the work order from the list that we're sending you from Spectrum, and then be able to issue items to the work order, or from the work order, I would say, move items from a warehouse to the work order, and then issue from the work order when it's being used.
Yep, that's how it works.
Okay. And if we were able to have an approval process similar to the shipping functionality, where an admin could either approve it or not.
Just taking a few notes here. Yeah, we could copy over that functionality and implement the same type of approval process where administrators have to come in and mark it as allowed to be issued from. And we could probably just pre-populate the screen with the work orders. If you're going to be exporting them from Spectrum over to here, we can probably just create the orders automatically in here for you and just have them selected from the list, similar to the shipping order screen.
Mm-hmm.
And just go through the process.
Yeah, and we can make sure they don't have permissions. The permissions would be just to then add lines and issue to those work orders, not to create new work orders then if it's auto-populated?
Yeah, we could do that. I believe it's the create permission. Should actually be in the base system, that one. Yeah, so it would be create/modify a work order. If you took away that permission, they wouldn't be able to make any alterations or add any new work orders. So that's in reference to the header screen. They wouldn't be able to make any alterations on the header, but they would still have the permission to add or remove lines and process lines.
Fantastic. And so if we had the work order system auto-populated, they'd be able to, all the header information would come from Spectrum. Then we would be able to have the lines created and then sent to a approval process. Then once approved, are issued out. And then once that final issuing happens from the work order, the information would be sent back to Spectrum to account for it financially being transferred from the warehouse to the work order.
Yeah, it would appear that evening on the exports, or however frequently we process them.
Okay. Does that seem like a workable workflow for us? I know it's some changes, but I think that's something we're going to have to discuss because that isn't something we've currently used, in the system, and so making sure that we can make those changes internally here is going to be important. I think that will give us the features we need in terms of the approval process, in terms of the export, and in terms of the auto-population of the header information.
Right. What do we do if we're going warehouse to warehouse? Like truck to truck, things like that.
And that,
what do we do with that?
Doesn't need to be approved because we're not going to be sending that information over, or we could just not give them permission to do that.
It does get sent over though, because
when we're going truck to truck.
If it's a different location, if it's going to like 102, if it's going to Michigan.
No, just like truck to truck here.
But we don't need we don't need to log that in Spectrum. We just need to log that in SIP. That's under the same GL code.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, whether or not we give the service coordinators permission to do that is a question we need to ask.
Well, I would basically say they have permission to start the process. They can't finish the process pending approval from somebody else.
For the work order system, once we
Or
have
even for issuing stock, like they can't just up and do it.
So we can have an approval for the shipping orders as we were going through, and for they can add it to the work order stream because it's a similar functionality. But we could just disallow them under the permissions to not be able to issue directly or do material transfers. Actually, is there a functionality to have material transfers, or moving inventory from one place to another? Does that have any approval capabilities?
No, it does not, because in most warehouse environments, stuff is just moved, as it needs to be moved in the warehouse. Most of the time, there isn't an approval process on that. But you can do it in transits and different stock operations to move things around in the system. We just have to add an approval process if you wanted one.
Well,
actually, what you could do, sorry for cutting you off. What we could actually do is give them permission to put something in transit, but not the permission to receive it from transit.
Well, that's what
that might be one option.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If we can do that, I think that would kind of solve that other part of the issue that we were having. Because basically we're trying to get rid of doing things off of spreadsheets and this and that. The material transfers are like the last big issue that we're having. So we want to give the service coordinators the ability to still do what they have been doing without using that spreadsheet, but not give them full access to, just go ahead and start putting over whatever they want, from work orders or to other warehouses or trucks, that they can start it, but they can't finish it. Like, it still has to be approved.
Okay. Yeah, I think this would actually work. We'll just give them the permission to put it in transit, and then only the administrators will have the ability to come in here and actually receive the stock and mark it as complete.
Okay. So would there be a setting, because I played around with, in the system users, between administrator, employee, things like that, and pretty much everybody that has full access, I've had to put on administrator because there's certain things that they can't do, even on employee, that I've checked and it looks like it's enabled. Off the top of my head, like they can't, I can't remember what it is. I just gave up though after a while. I'm like, it's just easier to let them do what they got to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we'll probably have to sit down and set up and configure, especially the way you guys would like it. I know the employee restrictions are pretty severe and in some places, and similar to
yeah, we get that big red X on the screen. You're not allowed to do this or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things as well. It's one of those things we normally have to sit down with the clients and go through, because the system, like I've said, it is 20 years old. Some of these things are not named appropriately, but they have to stay that way for backwards compatibility's sake. So sometimes we do have to sit down and walk you guys through, here's what you need to do this, here's what you need to do this. Additionally, like the reports permissions, there are two separate areas of permissions, so that can also be a little messy. In terms of, one person might be able to get to it, one other person might not be. So it's something we'll probably have to, work with you guys on, just to go through that list and, make sure we get the employees the permissions they need in order.
Covers off my list. I mean, we're going to have to investigate more and figure out what the procedural workflow is for setting up these work orders, and how that's going to look like in the how we're going forward. But I think the couple things we're doing for sure are the FIFO pricing, and then starting to move towards creating purchase orders in SIS, in Inventory Pro, moving that, exporting to Spectrum.
Okay. Yeah, just let us know once you get the process figured out, and I've taken some notes on our end over here during a meeting, so we'll get it together and we'll get a finalized quote together once you get us that information, and we figure out how you want to process this.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna be doing the barcode at the same time.
Yeah.
This part, so
Yep.
we'll have to do that one as well.
Yep. Is there, what information do you need for the barcodes to set that information up? We've been in contact with American Barcode in terms of purchasing the equipment.
The main information we need is, you know, what you would like to see on the labels. You know, is there any special information? What size label are you using? The base system has a bunch of 2x1 labels, some 3x2 labels, some other stuff like that. So any customization there will probably be getting it to fit with your bar stock, or excuse me, your label stock that you're using. You know, and getting whatever information you're looking for, serial numbers, descriptions, anything like that, getting those onto the labels appropriately.
We also had the idea of potentially color coding different items as they're received to kind of act as like a dating sort of thing, where, you know, one color would be received during the month of April, and another color would be that, you know, received during May, or so on and so forth. Is that something that this would have a capability of tracking and implementing with these barcodes?
We could probably implement a system to do that. Shouldn't be a problem. The only concern would be if the, you know, label stock or the you know, label printer actually supports either color printing, or, you know, you're buying, you know, color coded label stock to begin with. I think that would be the main limitation there.
Okay. Very cool. Any other questions, guys?
And we do support, just as you mentioned, determining when stuff was brought into the system. The system does track when you receive anything, so we do have the receiving dates and all that information. Additionally, we do support expiration dates as well. So if you have stock that's only good for 6 months or something, we do have different views on the receiving grid that show. I can't see it to save my life right now. There is an additional view. Oh, there it is. There is an additional view that lets you choose when the stock expires when you receive it into the system.
So we don't have expiration dates per se, but for us, warranty information is very important.
Understood.
So
because we can't ship it with a date on it, because then the customer knows when we got the material in.
Which is sometimes.
Well, I don't know if we would have a date specifically on it. It would be color coded. So unless they knew how your system worked, I don't think it would be. A problem.
Yeah, what I was thinking is doing a color coding, which could kind of help us do some first in, first out. You know, like if we receive a batch of 20 widgets in the month of January, we would color code them red, and then if we receive 10 more in February, we could do blue, and we could just instruct, you know, our warehouse staff, you know, make sure all of the red ones are out first, you know, because the ones that came in first should go first. That kind of thing is what we were getting at.
So I think we're good from our end. Is there anything you need from your end?
No, I think we're pretty good at the moment. We'll just need you to finalize how the process needs to work, and once you get us that information, we should be able to get this, you know, get a formal quote written up and get this process started.
Sounds good. I'll get you the information for the report formatting, as well as communication methods. We'll talk to Tom.
Yeah.
And then barcode information, as well as, you know, looking more at that new work order process.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
No problem.